Chapter 166, Formalities. Fang Hao saw about 5 patients before returning to deal with the medical affairs of the gynecology department. Since he was in charge of the work here, he had to propose some management style. Provincial People's Hospital was a tertiary A-level hospital, but the gynecology department was not the best, indicating that there were issues with the previous mechanisms. Standing outside the glass window, Fang Hao looked at a piece of land outside the hospital, a corner that extended from a nearby park. It seemed sharp and abrupt. He said, "Director Liu, if I were the hospital director, I would take down this corner and build a large building, a dedicated obstetrics and gynecology building." Liu asked, "Are you suggesting separating obstetrics and gynecology?" Fang Hao said, "It doesn't matter if we separate them. With an additional building, it's like having 2 fists, isn't it? This way, our gynecology department will become the best, surpassing the maternity and child care department, and even surpassing other gynecology departments in other provinces." He took out his phone, took a photo, and sent it to Lu Jing, writing, "Director Liu, here's a suggestion that will help you in your bid for the position of deputy director. Take down this land and build a large building for obstetrics and gynecology." Lu Jing quickly replied, "Good idea, but it shouldn't be for obstetrics and gynecology, it should be for the surgical department or a building for elderly care." Fang Hao was speechless. He was thinking from the perspective of the gynecology department, considering it his building. On the other hand, Lu Jing was thinking from the hospital's perspective. Naturally, she wouldn't agree to give the new building to the gynecology department. Instead, it would be for a more profitable surgical department or elderly care. Fang Hao said to Lu Yu, "Director, we need to take action now to seize the opportunity. Let's go fight for it." Lu Yu smiled and said, "I'll leave this to you to fight for. If you succeed, the position of chief director will be yours." "I'd rather not. I won't compete for it head-on." Fang Hao looked at the time and said, "It's been 2 to 3 hours, and the pregnant woman from the maternity and child care department hasn't been brought over. She won't be coming. I'm leaving now." "Wait for a moment. Let's leave together, and you can give me a ride." "Director, Zhang Jun's car was taken by Lu Zheng. I only have the number 11 bus." Fang Hao slapped his legs. "Lu Zheng? Forget it then. That spendthrift, he shouldn't have given him the car. Otherwise, we could have had a timely ride." "Director, it wasn't my car." Fang Hao shrugged helplessly and left when it was time. Just as he walked out of the gynecology department gate, he received a call from his wife, saying they were having dinner at her mother's house tonight because her mother had returned from the nursing home. The whole family was gathering. Fang Hao frowned but agreed. He took the bus and coincidentally had to wait for more than 10 minutes each time. The traffic was also congested. When he finally arrived at the villa, it was already late. Many people from the Su family came over this time, and there were also people from the Zhou family. 3 tables were set up in the villa, and the food was ordered from a high-end hotel. Fang Hao was half an hour late, and they became impatient waiting for him. "Husband, why are you so late?" Su Ro complained a bit when Fang Hao was washing his hands in the kitchen. "No need to wait for me, you can start eating." Fang Hao ignored Su Ro and went out. When he was about to sit in a corner, he was stopped by his mother-in-law, who wanted him to sit next to her. Fang Hao felt a bit reserved. "Don't make a scene, I'm getting a divorce anyway." Fang Hao thought to himself but reluctantly sat down. "Where are you sitting?" "Sit here and keep an eye on me. I can eat these dishes," his mother-in-law said, thinking Fang Hao, who came from the countryside, might feel inferior. However, Su Ro knew that it was because Fang Hao didn't consider himself part of the Su family, signaling his intention to divorce. She felt a bit disheartened but didn't dare confront Fang Hao. "Mom, all of these dishes are edible except for alcohol and cigarettes." Fang Hao saw wine and cigarettes on the table. Su Buiyuan said, "The alcohol and cigarettes are for us, not your mom's." "Fang Hao, you're late, so have 3 drinks first." He handed a bottle of Flying Maotai to Fang Hao and asked him to pour it himself. The liquor was Flying Maotai, and it was from the previous year. When Fang Hao came in, he glanced and saw another box on the floor with packaging that read, "Special Supply." This vintage was extremely rare in the market, valuable but hard to find. "Oh, just here to enjoy some good liquor." That's what Fang Hao thought as he began to pour himself a drink. "Don't drink too much." His mother-in-law reminded him briefly, then fell silent. After all, men needed to drink. Fang Hao came from the countryside, couldn't show off any background, and his job wasn't impressive. Compared to the people sitting here, he wasn't on the same level as any of them. If he couldn't even handle a few drinks, it would be even more embarrassing. Fang Hao indeed had 3 drinks, then took the initiative to toast his father-in-law before the feast began. Su Buiyuan was a professor and also involved in economic consulting, so he had many topics. The banquet was basically centered around him. Fang Hao just listened, and when his mother-in-law finished eating and left the table and his father-in-law lit a cigarette, he also followed suit, blowing smoke rings while pouring his own drinks. Suro also paid attention to Fang Hao, finding him very silent. She felt a bit anxious, fearing that Fang Hao would get angry after drinking. She found a chance to let Yue Xia call Fang Hao out and ask him not to drink. Because it was Friday, the child didn't have to go to kindergarten tomorrow, and Suro didn't have to go to work, so they would stay here for a long time this night. After Fang Hao came out and played with Yue Xia for a while, he said to Suro, "You guys stay here tonight, and I'll go back to the dormitory." Suro was puzzled and asked, "Why? Aren't you staying? Pretend you don't know." "Suro, don't invite me to such gatherings in the future. I'm not in the same class as you guys." Fang Hao didn't consider himself part of this family, so naturally, he wouldn't stay here. Suro grabbed Fang Hao's hand and said, "This is our home, don't be like this. If you have any issues, let's talk about it after tonight. Stay here tonight. My dad has been drinking, and no one will take care of him if you leave. Your dad can handle his alcohol well and has good drinking etiquette. If he gets really drunk, he'll just fall asleep. No need to worry." Fang Hao walked outside. You've been drinking. Can you still drive? Just stay. I didn't drive here. I'll take a taxi at the entrance." Fang Hao waved and left. Suro stood at the door, watching Fang Hao go further away until he disappeared at the end of the streetlights. Her brows were tightly knit. She returned to the room and saw her mother-in-law also coming out. She approached her and said, "Mom, it's windy outside, don't catch a cold. Go back to the room. The room is full of the smell of cigarettes and alcohol. I don't like it. Where's Fang Hao? Where did he go? He went back to the hospital to work overtime. Who are you fooling? Why are you two so at odds? He doesn't even want to stay overnight. Or does he not want to see you? Mom, he's really busy. He's doing a PhD. What's the use of a part-time PhD? There are plenty of full-time ones. Who cares about a part-time PhD? He thinks he can be extraordinary just because he's part-time? When will he go through the proper procedures?" "What procedures?" "The divorce procedures." Don't make excuses with the child. If it's not suitable, just divorce. Find someone who doesn't mind the child and is willing to accept them. I'm out now. It's just right that I have nothing to do. I'll invite him over tomorrow. I'll talk to him." "Who? That man of yours?" "Mom, there's nothing going on." "Oh, you really think you're the only smart one? You're just a step away from writing it on your face. You continue to deceive me." Chapter 167, Wife's Painful Choice. Love me, love my dog, the reverse is also true. Fang Hao now despises his wife, wants to divorce her, so he doesn't like her family either. His father-in-law fell here, he is treated as a son-in-law here, and he dislikes it even more. The fact that his wife had an affair was enough for him to consider divorce. Being treated as a son-in-law added to his sense of shame. He didn't go back to the marital home but went straight back to the hospital dormitory. He couldn't sleep, and at around 11, he received a call from Tang Qi. It was surprising, and when he answered, he found out Tang Qi wanted to talk to him and visit his home. He agreed and asked Tang Qi to come to the hospital. Coincidentally, Tang Qi was in the gynecology department, so Fang Hao arranged to chat in his dormitory. Fang Hao happened to be out of cigarettes, so he went to buy some. When he returned, he saw Tang Qi at the door. Tang Qi was carrying research materials and some barbecue. Seeing Fang Hao also brought cigarettes and drinks, he said, "That's perfect." Fang Hao frowned but didn't say much. He opened the door and let Tang Qi in. "Brother Hao, why do you live here? Why don't you go home?" Tang Qi asked casually, noticing Fang Hao's place was very simple, with only a bed and a table. On the table were a computer, printer, and piles of books. On the wall hung acupuncture charts, anatomical charts, and in the corner, there was a small bronze figure used for acupuncture. This place was filled with an otherworldly atmosphere. Thinking that Brother Hao's medical skills were obtained through research, Tang Qi found it trustworthy. Fang Hao cleared a table, set up the barbecue, and opened some cigarettes and drinks. Then they began the joy of men. Brother Hao, I see you've already had a drink. Let's skip that this time. Have some drinks and chat casually. I feel closer to Brother Hao, treating you like a benefactor, like a big brother. Tang Qi was straightforward. Fang Hao understood and said, your grandfather made a decision, right? He wants me to treat him? Yes, there's no hiding it from Brother Hao. Grandpa consulted many experts and thinks your plan is worth a try. He wants you to come over tomorrow. No problem. Tomorrow is the weekend, and I don't have to work. You come over to pick me up. Fang Hao didn't refuse. In the afternoon, he clashed with Li Xiaoxi. Although Lu Yu said not to worry about retaliation, he still had to be cautious. Okay, I'll come over early tomorrow to pick you up. Grandpa will rely on you then. Don't be polite. Oh, Tang Zong, I heard from your sister that you beat up your brother-in-law? Yes, not to mention those freeloaders. It's one thing to eat for free, but he even bought a house for that woman and cohabited with her. Such a person deserves a beating. Exactly. Deserves it. Brother Hao, I heard you've already had a round. Would you dare to beat someone next time if I ask you to? Brother Hao, who do you want to beat? Just say the word. If I can handle it, I'll definitely beat them. Handle it? Still depends on the person? Oh, in Jiangdong City, is there anyone you can't beat? Bring it on openly. There are still quite a few people who wouldn't dare to fight openly, but a sneak attack with a club, not many would dare resist. Okay, I'll remember that. Fang Hao felt that Tang Qi was very social. He was straightforward when he should be, cunning when he should be, and would secretly retaliate against others. Tang Qi didn't overdrink, stayed for half an hour, finished the midnight snack, and took the bamboo skewers and other garbage when he left. The next day, Fang Hao waited in the office for Lu Yu to arrive. He said, Director, I'll go check on Mr. Qiao later. I won't be on duty today. Qiao Yiheng? Did he agree to let you treat him? Lu Yu knew the purpose of the dinner arranged by Tang Wan, so she wasn't surprised. Yes, these past few days, Mr. Qiao has been discussing with various experts. Since he couldn't get assurance from the specialists, he wants to give my unconventional methods a try. He notified me last night. I'll go over for an examination and do what I can. Alright, go ahead then. Lu Yu was straightforward. About 20 minutes after Fang Hao left, Su Rou arrived at the hospital. The two kids knocked on Fang Hao's dormitory door, but there was no one inside. Su Rou inquired at the clinic and found out that Fang Hao had been promoted to the deputy director of the gynecology department. My husband got a promotion, and he didn't tell me? Su Rou felt gloomy, sensing that Fang Hao had become distant from her. They went to the gynecology department and Fang Hao's office but didn't find him. Instead, they saw Lu Yu. Fang Hao said he had something to do and left. I don't know where he went. You should call him. Lu Yu didn't disclose the specific situation to Su Rou. After all, Fang Hao went to treat Xiao Yiheng, and the outcome was uncertain. He's not answering his phone. It's probably turned off. Her hired private detective had been severely beaten, and the detective agency had closed down. Now, she couldn't accurately trace Fang Hao's whereabouts. That's okay. You go back first. When he comes back, I'll tell him to find you. Lu Yu smiled and gave the little one some snacks. She really liked this pair of twins, their looks were extraordinarily good. Considering Fang Hao and Su Rou's appearances, it was clear why their children were so beautiful. Su Rou, helpless, could only take the children home. She felt angry and disappointed. Back in the residential area, she let the children play with the neighbors' kids. Royally asked, "Where's Fang Hao?" "It's the weekend, I thought you guys went out to have fun?" Su Rou replied, "He's on duty." She couldn't say she couldn't find Fang Hao at the hospital, that would be too embarrassing. Royally sighed, Lao Dong is the same, always on duty during the weekends. Tomorrow, he has to go to the countryside for an event. We were planning to go to the amusement park together. Seeing Su Rou covering her mouth, Royally said, "Is the reaction so big now? Go back and rest. When Fang Hao comes back at noon, I'll ask him to join us for lunch." Su Rou returned to her room and called Fang Hao again, but still, there was no answer. She thought Fang Hao was deliberately not answering her calls. "Fang Hao, why do you have the right to ignore my calls?" Fuming, she decided to call the other person. The person said, Su, come to Tianji Peak." Su Rou's heart trembled. She really wanted to accompany that person. He was more considerate and romantic than Fang Hao. She said, I have to bring the kids. I can't make it. The person replied, give the kids to Zai, you come. Suro said, Fang Hao is on duty. He's giving me the silent treatment. He's determined to divorce, and it's bothering me. The person said, can Zai handle it? Who gave him the courage? Why don't you teach him a lesson? Suro replied, he says he has something of ours that he acquired while with you. It might force me to divorce him. I don't know what he has, and it's frustrating. The person said, Zai still wants a divorce? I'll have someone talk to him. If he dares to divorce, he'll lose everything. Don't mess around. He's become cunning now. Last time, you had Jai come out, which was the stupidest move. Don't mess things up. Until I know what he has, we can't meet. Suro hung up the phone, bit her lip, and made a painful choice. Chapter 168, My Mother Agrees to Divorce. On the other side, Fang Hao arrived at a tranquil private garden in the outskirts and met with Qiao Yiheng. Qiao Yiheng, now sitting in a wheelchair, was basking in the sun on the steps. Despite the high external temperature, there was no sign of him sweating. Fang Hao immediately noticed that the old man's amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, ALS, had worsened. Dr. Fang, you've come. I apologize for not greeting you from a distance. My legs have become more numb this morning. Standing is difficult, let alone walking, Qiao Yiheng said. He attempted to stand but couldn't, revealing frustration in his eyes, coupled with a sense of powerlessness. No need to get up, no need for formalities, old master. Let's go inside, I'll give you an examination, Fang Hao said. Carrying a medical kit, he let Tang Qi push the old man inside. Thank you, Dr. Fang. Tang Qi laid a blanket over the old man's legs and stepped back. Fang Hao conducted a thorough examination, and the condition seemed more severe than when he last encountered it. He said, Old master, these past 2 days are the weakest for you. It's the consequence of using strong medicine. You should be aware of it. Qiao Yiheng replied, yes. I tried 3 modified Ong Nyohuang pills, but they didn't work. Now, I can't continue with them, so there's no other choice. Dr. Fang, do you have any solutions? Fang Hao answered, yes. I know a bit about acupuncture, and it might help alleviate your condition. After finishing the examination, Fang Hao proceeded to perform acupuncture on the old man. Is this Qi? Dr. Fang, do you practice Qigong? Qiao Yiheng felt a faint energy as Fang Hao inserted the last needle, traveling through the acupoints. He had intended to stimulate the blocked points with medication, which had failed, but now these points were clear. The energy was weak, but he could feel it. Old master, this is the neural conduction at the acupuncture points, not Qi. Fang Hao explained further, using theories from Western medicine. Qiao Yiheng contemplated Fang Hao's explanation. While it was flawless, he still believed it was the Qi of Qigong. Seeing Fang Hao's honest and open demeanor, he thought that Fang Hao might have unintentionally touched upon that level. In his view, traditional Chinese and Western medicine were, in some aspects, interconnected. While the old man received acupuncture, Fang Hao examined the records of his past treatments and reviewed some scans. He asked, the clarity of these images, where were they taken? Tang Qi came over to take a look and said, these were taken at a private hospital on the Jiang family's side. Is there a problem? No problem. They are clearer than those taken at our provincial hospital. It seems they use state-of-the-art equipment. Fang Hao wasn't surprised. After all, big conglomerates and family businesses establishing private hospitals for the convenience of their family members wasn't uncommon. However, he found it a bit strange. Last time, Jiang Tai's son came to the provincial hospital's pediatric ward for a drip. A private hospital without a pediatric ward was unimaginable. Moreover, didn't Li Wei go to the provincial hospital for treatment? It's puzzling. Fang Hao shifted his focus to the documents, carefully reviewing them and contemplating the treatment plan. Neither the old master nor Tang Qi interrupted Fang Hao's thoughts. After a brief period of reflection, Fang Hao closed the documents and addressed Qiao Yiheng. The treatment plan remains similar to the last one I proposed. I made slight adjustments to the medications. I'll come every day for acupuncture, either at noon or in the evening, schedule to be determined. In 3 days, you should recover to a state similar to our first meeting. Qiao Yiheng inquired, what about after that? Will there be a recurrence? Fang Hao assured, no, because the medications I prescribed differ from those in Ong Nyohuang pills. They won't harm your fundamental health. What about the minor surgery you mentioned? It's a minimally invasive procedure, optional depending on the treatment results 3 days later. After retrieving the needles, Fang Hao said, "Wait a few minutes, you should be able to stand up. When you feel a slight numbness in your legs, stop. Walk around 50 steps. 50 steps? Xiao Ying harbored suspicions, but after a few minutes, the numbness from acupuncture disappeared. His legs felt strengthened as he stood up and took measured steps. True to Fang Hao's prediction, after approximately 50 steps, his legs seemed to lose strength, prompting him to sit down. Dr. Fang, you are truly extraordinary. Your prediction was spot on. My frail body is in your hands, Xiao Ying exclaimed, now fully trusting Fang Hao's judgment. Following this, Fang Hao arranged a confidentiality agreement, pledging not to disclose Xiao Ying's treatment to the public. This discretion was crucial, considering the potential impact on Xiao Ying's publicly listed company if news of his illness leaked. In return for maintaining confidentiality, Fang Hao received a check of 500,000. Fang Hao wrote the prescription, and Tang Qi sent it out. Within half an hour, someone delivered the medicines. Since there were no nursing staff available, Fang Hao had to handle the medication preparation himself and administer the intravenous drip. Simultaneously, he had to prepare the herbal medicine. By the time Fang Hao finished this round of treatment, it was already midnight. Tang Qi took Fang Hao to a hotel for dinner before escorting him back to the hospital. In the dorm, Fang Hao continued his research on Xiao Ying's medical records, delving into challenging areas such as vascular blockages, heart and lung failure, and ALS. When it was time for his evening shift, he went to the hospital's inpatient medical records room to retrieve relevant literature, continuing his research. He spent the entire afternoon reviewing all relevant case studies. Leaving the inpatient department, Fang Hao bumped into Yang Wenjin, the former hospital director. He asked, "Director Yang, can our hospital introduce a digital holographic projection system? Firstly, you need money. Secondly, someone needs to be willing to give it to you," Yang Wenjin responded. Curious, Yang Wenjin raised his eyes to scrutinize Fang Hao and inquired, "What mischief are you up to now?" Fang Hao said, "With a digital holographic projection, we can practice surgeries and have a clearer understanding of patients' conditions, enhancing the overall treatment. If you can introduce this technology to the obstetrics and gynecology department, I'll promote you to a permanent position." "I don't have that capability, Director." "Then stop daydreaming." "Oh, your director Lee complained to me, saying you're not cooperating with her. What's going on?" "Complaints?" Fang Hao thought for a moment and explained, "There was a video consultation yesterday. A pregnant woman had the umbilical cord wrapped around the baby's neck for 3.5 weeks, and she was in our obstetrics and gynecology ward. The doctors from the external hospital couldn't handle it. I suggested transferring the pregnant woman to our hospital, but they disagreed. Director Lee asked me to accompany her to the obstetrics and gynecology department. I thought Director Lee was so eager because she might be the deputy director of obstetrics and gynecology. I prioritized our matters to maintain the reputation of our provincial hospital." "Director, did I do something wrong?" The old director responded, "You didn't do anything wrong, but it wasn't handled gracefully. As long as Director Lee doesn't go to the obstetrics and gynecology department for a day, she remains the head of our obstetrics and gynecology department and ultimately your superior. I'm still young and need to learn more from you, Director. You better learn from your mother-in-law." "Don't, my mother agreed to my divorce from Su Ro. Soon, she won't be my mother-in-law." "Oh, divorce? Why?" "I come from a rural background, she looks down on me. Do your job well and don't make mistakes." The old director hesitated, a touch of sympathy in his gaze. Despite that, he refrained from saying much. Chapter 169, Forming Alliances. In the evening, Fang Hao didn't go home, and his wife didn't contact him either. He stayed in the dormitory, researching the treatment plan for Xiao Ying throughout the night. The next day, he went to work. Liu had a day off, so Fang Hao took charge of the ward rounds. With another attending physician on duty, he went through the inpatient wards of the gynecology and obstetrics departments. Fang Hao noticed some issues, particularly with the treatment plans administered by Li Xiaoxi. Although not life-threatening, there were potential risks. Rather than directly altering the plans and further offending Li Xiaoxi, Fang Hao advised the on-duty doctors to be vigilant. He wasn't afraid of offending people, but consistently causing conflicts would be foolish. It took him over an hour to complete the ward rounds, focusing on crucial aspects. Otherwise, with hundreds of gynecological inpatients, the entire morning wouldn't be sufficient. Afterward, Fang Hao realized he had underestimated the complexity of the gynecology department. It encompassed 7 specialties: gynecological tumors, endoscopy, gynecological endocrinology, urogynecology, family planning, high-risk pregnancy, and general obstetrics. The department provided specialized outpatient clinics for gynecological tumors, pediatric gynecology, endometriosis, infertility, gynecological endocrinology, menopausal diseases, menstrual disorders, eugenics, and high-risk pregnancy. Each day, specialists were available for consultations. Though not as specialized as women and children's hospitals, the provincial hospital was still a tertiary hospital. Managing such a vast department was undoubtedly challenging. After completing the ward rounds, Fang Hao realized he had overlooked the importance of the gynecology department. He took a short break, smoking a cigarette, before proceeding to the first outpatient clinic. Fang Hao reviewed 10 cases brought to him and found them relatively straightforward. He checked the primary physician, a certain Zhu Yulian. Why did Zhu Yulian delegate these cases to me? Fang Hao pondered. After finishing the last case, Fang Hao called Lu Yu to inquire about Zhu Yulian's background. He then instructed the head nurse to summon Zhu Yulian to his office. It was only then that Fang Hao noticed Zhu Yulian was a young woman, just over 30. Her eyebrows were neatly groomed, and a subtle fragrance of exquisite perfume lingered around her, similar to the one his wife used. This woman had money. Fang Hao greeted her directly. "Dr. Zhu, I offer my congratulations to you on your promotion." The head nurse asked, "Dr. Zhu is getting promoted? To associate chief physician?" Medical titles and ranks included. Entry-level titles: physician, medical master, resident physician. Intermediate titles: attending physician, associate chief physician. Senior titles: chief physician. Zhu Yulian was an attending physician, an intermediate title. When Fang Hao mentioned her promotion, he was referring to her becoming an associate chief physician. Becoming an associate chief physician meant being a deputy director in the department, no small feat. In reality, Fang Hao held an intermediate title, but he temporarily served as the acting deputy director of the department, a special appointment. The head nurse gazed at Zhu Yulian with envy. Zhu Yulian asked, "Director Fang, where did this congratulations come from?" Fang Hao explained, "Dr. Zhu, there's no need to hide it. You're Director Li's right-hand person. As she's going to become the deputy director of the obstetrics and gynecology department at the Women and Children's Hospital, she'll undoubtedly bring a group of people with her. Naturally, you'll get promoted when you go over there." Zhu Yulian was surprised because Li Xiaoxi had indeed mentioned this to her, but she hadn't moved yet. How did Fang Hao know? The head nurse eagerly asked, "Dr. Zhu, are you leaving the provincial hospital?" Zhu Yulian replied, "Director Fang, this matter hasn't been settled. Please don't spread rumors." Fang Hao assured her, "Rest assured, I won't try to keep you here. You are Director Li's person, and I dare not retain you. Besides you, who else might be going? You might as well reveal it." Zhu Yulian said, I really don't know. It doesn't matter if you don't say. But before you leave, make sure to hand over your work. Take care of the routine maintenance in the inpatient department, assist Director Li, and coordinate administrative work. Starting now, you don't need to see patients in the clinic. Go to the inpatient department and handle your duties." Fang Hao waved his hand, signaling Zhu Yulian to leave. The head nurse closed the door and asked, "Director, we haven't heard about Zhu Yulian moving to Women and Children's Hospital. How did you find out?" Fang Hao replied, "When someone's heart is not in a place, it shows. Just look at the 10 patients we just took over. With Zhu Yulian's abilities, she could have handled them, but she didn't. This indicates that her heart isn't here. When I said she's Director Li's person, I was actually testing her, but she didn't deny it." "Makes sense," the head nurse nodded in agreement. "Spread this gossip around," Fang Hao added, giving the head nurse an informal task. The head nurse was surprised. Previously, she thought Fang Hao was very young, but now she realized he had political acumen. After finishing the outpatient clinic, Fang Hao called Lu Yu again to exchange opinions. He learned that during Li Xiaoxi's promotion to director, she had recruited and cultivated several trusted subordinates. It was possible that Li Xiaoxi intended to bring these people with her. Fang Hao thought, if she takes them away, even better. It would free up positions, and we can then recruit new staff. With the reputation of the provincial hospital, many doctors would vie for positions here. Fang Hao continued to explain his strategy. Since Li Xiaoxi's people were likely leaving, he wouldn't assign them to important medical positions anymore. Instead, he planned to marginalize them. He wasn't worried about offending people because Lu Yu could handle it. Fang Hao had experienced being transferred from the inpatient department to the 4-room and was even almost moved to the dental department. It was only through Lu Jing's intervention that he ended up in the outpatient department. He understood the psychological impact of such job changes on doctors. As for Zhu Yulian, she was also informing Li Xiaoxi about Fang Hao's arrangements. Li Xiaoxi was furious at Fang Hao's actions, feeling that he was trying to force her out. While her move to Women and Children's Hospital was not confirmed, Fang Hao's actions pushed her to solidify plans there. Li Xiaoxi had to make sure everything was settled before she left, arranging new positions for her trusted subordinates. Initially, she planned to confirm the Women and Children's Hospital position first and then make arrangements, but Fang Hao's interference forced her hand. She wondered if her actions at Women and Children's Hospital would be perceived as forming alliances. This Fang Hao really knows how to stir up trouble. Li Xiaoxi exclaimed, throwing her phone onto the sofa. She was resting at home, with her husband by her side. Her husband, a tall middle-aged man with a round belly, exuded the aura of a successful businessman. He asked, "What's wrong? Something bothering you?" Li Xiaoxi complained, "Our department got a troublemaker in charge of medical affairs, a minion of Su Yucheng. He exposed my vulnerabilities twice, including the Parkin disease case. Now, he's trying to force me out of the gynecology department, hoping I'll leave immediately. I'm so annoyed by him." Her husband advised, "The provincial hospital can't compare to Women and Children's Hospital. Quickly finalize things there and go as soon as possible." "Is there a way?" Li Xiaoxi moved closer, sitting on her husband's lap, trying to be affectionate. The normal procedure would involve a transfer after the Chinese New Year, but doing it a bit earlier wasn't impossible. Her husband's hands moved assertively, reciprocating her affection. Chapter 170, Sudden Discovery. Noon. Tang Qi came to the provincial hospital to pick up Fang Hao and then took him to treat Xiaoyiheng. After a day of treatment, Xiaoyiheng was no longer in a wheelchair and could stand at the door to greet Fang Hao. When he saw Fang Hao, his eyes lit up. This young doctor had already surprised him in just one night. He said, "Dr. Fang, I woke up this morning feeling strength in my legs. I don't need the wheelchair anymore, and I can walk, though I get tired after a few minutes." Fang Hao replied, "Mr. Qiao, you look good. It indicates that the treatment is effective. Let's continue today." "Sure, I'll follow Dr. Fang's instructions for everything." Xiaoyiheng was in a good mood. Fang Hao conducted a routine examination and found that Xiaoyiheng's condition was slightly better than he expected. In addition to Xiaoyiheng's cooperation with treatment, taking medication on time, and resting as instructed, his previous foundation also played a role. According to some information from Tang Qi, Xiaoyiheng used to be a reckless troublemaker, relying on some martial arts skills to dominate the Jiangdong market. After acupuncture, Xiaoyiheng felt more strength in his legs. He was delighted, expressing gratitude to Fang Hao and promising to thank him properly after the treatment was complete. Fang Hao politely accepted the sentiment, knowing that if Xiaoyiheng insisted on giving him something, he would take it. In the car, Tang Qi said, "Brother Hao, my grandfather says you're our family's benefactor. If you ever need anything, just let me know. Oh, you mentioned wanting to beat someone last time. Tell me who it is, and I'll help you beat him. I'm not into beating people. Last time was just a joke with you. However, I do have something that I need your help with." Fang Hao had a sudden idea. Since Zhang Lingtian was quite old and might not withstand physical violence, and Zhang Lingtian was just a suspect, not necessarily guilty. Even if he was guilty, Fang Hao wouldn't settle for just a beating. He would make sure the person regretted being alive. "Brother Hao, go ahead. Do you know this person?" Fang Hao pulled up a photo of Zhang Lingtian for Tang Qi to identify. "Uncle Zhang? I know him. He's a living legend. If you want to meet him, you need to go through my grandfather's connections." Tang Qi casually mentioned his admiration for Zhang Lingtian. Fang Hao could sense Tang Qi's excitement, feeling a bit bitter in his heart. He was fortunate not to have asked Tang Qi to beat up Zhang Lingtian, or Tang Qi might have turned against him. Indeed, you can't rely on others. This Zhang Lingtian is so outstanding. If I want to investigate him, I need to be extremely cautious. Fang Hao quickly said, I see. Proficient in music, chess, calligraphy, and painting, a living legend indeed. A friend's mother bought one of his paintings for 80 million. Oh, the 80 million painting. Is it Mrs. Su's painting? Brother Hao, do you know Mrs. Su too? What do you mean by no? They have someone in their family who's sick and wanted my help. We just exchanged a few words. We don't have a close relationship. I see. But, Brother Hao, I'll tell you a little secret. Don't spread it around. Mrs. Su and Uncle Zhang have an extremely close relationship. An 80 million painting has suspicions of them scratching each other's backs. Is the most expensive one worth 1 billion or 3 billion? There is no most expensive one. Uncle Zhang knows how to play the game. He's an idol for middle-aged and elderly women. Haha. Fang Hao felt disheartened. If Zhang Lingtian was this skillful, it wouldn't be surprising if his wife suffered both mentally and physically. As for sending Tang Qi to collect information on Zhang Lingtian, it seemed impractical. If Zhang Lingtian recognized me and I appeared next to him, he would definitely be vigilant. How can I get close to Zhang Lingtian? Whom should I trust? Changing the topic, Fang Hao said, keep an eye on your grandfather's situation. Now that he can walk, be cautious not to rush things. Sure, I'll pay more attention. During the journey, the car stopped at a traffic light, requiring a wait of 1.5 minutes. Suddenly, Fang Hao noticed a couple walking ahead and was surprised. His gaze followed them involuntarily. Tang Qi asked, Brother Hao, what's wrong? I saw someone I know. I recognize the woman, and the man is her supervisor. Didn't expect their relationship to be like this. The couple Fang Hao saw consisted of Xiao Yang from the convalescent hospital and one of the deputy deans. The deputy dean was married. Xiao Yang's access to the key of the information room was due to this connection. Fang Hao realized how she managed to get the key, through this relationship. It made him sigh, this young girl, how did she end up on this path? Tang Qi reassured him, oh, this is normal, Brother Hao. You might not have encountered much of this ivory tower hospital life, but in the entertainment industry, I've seen many women who go out without their families knowing and have a great time. Su Ro often went to KTV as well, and when she was with Zhang Lingtian, she probably had a great time, being exciting and secretive. Fang Hao felt bitter inside. Wife, utterly disappointing. I shouldn't bother with other people's affairs. Fang Hao quickly shifted to another topic, chatting casually. Back in the gynecology department, Fang Hao noticed Lu Yu had arrived. Lu Yu asked, how's the treatment for Qiao Ying going? Fang Hao replied, it's going smoothly. 3 days make 1 course of treatment. Today is the 2nd day, and after tomorrow's acupuncture session, he will be able to alleviate his current symptoms. He can participate in social activities. Then, through medication and gradual adjustment, we'll adopt a conservative treatment approach. His lungs and liver already show functional atrophy, and surgery wouldn't be very meaningful. He exempted Lu Yu from the confidentiality agreement, so he could share the details with her. Lu Yu nodded and said, actually, your solid knowledge of traditional Chinese medicine and excellent diagnostic skills would be more suitable for internal medicine. But internal medicine is Zhou Long's territory, and you wouldn't have much room there. So I will do my best in gynecology. Director Lu, I'm under your command. If you want me to go east, I won't go west. Fang Hao quickly expressed his loyalty. If internal medicine is Zhou Long's domain, then he would rather return to the outpatient department and be under Lu Jing's leadership. Lu Yu was very satisfied and said, you have the ability, and when opportunities arise, you seize them. Now, our gynecology is also facing a challenge. Li Xiaoxi will take some people with her, even a few associate chief physicians and attending physicians might follow her. By then, our medical team in gynecology will need to be rebuilt. Fang Hao was surprised but thought it was reasonable. After all, someone like Li Xiaoxi might not be at the top in medical skills, but her connections were undoubtedly top-notch. Even after repeated mistakes, she could still be moved to become a deputy dean. This showed her capabilities. After thinking for a moment, Fang Hao said, with the reputation of our provincial hospital, recruiting new staff won't be difficult. Oh, after Li Director takes people away, there might be a new dean parachuting in. The new dean will naturally want to build their own team. He didn't believe that he could jump up another level and truly become the head of the gynecology department. The current position he held was due to special circumstances. He continued, if Director Li takes people away, then I'll just cover the entire day shift on my side. Liu said, I'm giving you a heads up, so you can be mentally prepared.